knowing that it takes roughly 11 touch points, 11 times for someone to be able to see something before they make a decision on it or they come to a conclusion about that person. How much does that weigh into analytics? If it takes 11 times, doesn't that necessarily mean that it gives you 11 opportunities to learn something new about that person? And the more you learn, the further you can get into that count of 11?
It definitely can. And some of those touch points aren't necessarily on your website either.
Mhm.
They could be on your socials, which is again part of the bigger picture when you're looking at the holistic world of data, bringing everything together. But yes, you can definitely gain insight as to what they're doing in the patterns, the trends and patterns that they're going through, and learn from those and apply those to say even future campaigns or future launches or future whatever, so that if you know this is how your market, your audience, your customers work, how they respond and interact with you, you can incorporate that into your future things so that again you can shorten that time to buy to working with you.
Absolutely. Okay, well, now here's a question. Could you give us an example of how a specific metric shifts from vanity to useful at different business stages?
Oh, that the vanity is so vanity, let me back that up a bit. In the framework that I talk about with data, I
Mhm.
talk about there's a type of value that a data point or a metric provides you. And so within that, the value, I break it down into vanity,
Mhm.
or it's a vanity metric, it's interesting, or it's useful. So a vanity metric, it makes you feel good, you pump, fist pump in the air and you feel really good, and it does nothing for your business. Doesn't move the needle at all. Interesting data is something that could be useful to you, but it also likely would take you down a rabbit hole,
Mhm.
versus a useful piece of data will actually help you move the needle on what you're trying to do in your business. So I'm a big proponent of look at what you need to look at now and ignore the rest for now. So if you want to talk about a piece of data involving vanity. So if you're an early stage business, for example, how much traffic is coming to my website? It's probably in the interesting and useful, because you want to know, is more than my mom coming to my website and my
Mhm.
aunt.
Mhm.
So how much traffic coming to your website is somewhat useful in early stages. But if you're an established business, few years under your belt and things like that, how much traffic coming to my website shifts over, in my opinion, to the vanity category, because that's not really useful to you anymore. There's a lot of angles, aspects underneath that piece of that particular result, that data point, that's more useful to you. So an example of that is your traffic may be going up,
Mhm.
but if you're, say, a local business or you serve a specific geographic area, if the bulk of that traffic is coming from out of the country or another region in the country,
Right.
that traffic going up means nothing. And in fact, it means the efforts that you're, say, putting into SEO or ads that you're targeting is not working. It's not effective because it's attracting people who can't work with you. So
Right.
just to say your numbers are going up, in that case, it's like you can feel good about your numbers going up, but it's not doing your business any good whatsoever. It's not going to move the needle. And you actually need to be looking at other things that are going to be more pertinent to the getting results.
Okay. Well, one, love that. Two, I think it leads into the very next thing that I was going to ask you. I know when we had a strategy session, we were talking about siloed analytics and understanding that is not just looking at the results, but it's looking at what's actually getting you results. So, how do you help your clients distinguish between vanity metrics and truly useful data? And what's your approach to helping businesses create a holistic view of their performance? You said that you look specifically at where people are and allow them to be able to focus on, okay, well, this is where you're at. If you look too far down the road, then it could distract you from the things that you need to be keeping an eye on. It's one of those things where if someone's looking down the road, they could miss a step. If you're looking too far up the staircase, you could miss a step and then trip and hurt yourself. And there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But if you're looking at leveling up and you look too far down the road, there's things that you could miss. So how do you help people address that? And what's your approach to making sure that they focus on what actually matters?
Well, that goes back to, for us, it goes back to a framework that we use, and
Mhm.
the framework that we use, and that brings in another aspect. where you're actually looking at the impact of what that data is going to do. So when you look at, so my goal, like, I'll regress a little bit here. My goal is to have clients look at as little data as possible.
Mm.
So think of it as the difference between an airline, and a jet airline cockpit
Mhm.
versus the dashboard in your car. It's like
Drastic difference.
drastic difference. The pilot needs all of those instruments to fly the plane. You don't need all those instruments to drive your car. What you see on your dashboard is a very small set of instruments of data. All those instruments are reporting data back to you. So you just need a small set. And I'd even argue that what's on your dashboard right now, you probably even look at a subset of that. I know I don't look at my TAC. I look at my gas gauge. Sometimes I look at the temperature gauge, and I look at the speedometer. Those are, so like between my gas gauge and my speedometer, that's what I look at most. And that allows me to make decisions quickly
Mhm.
in amongst all of the other things that are going on the road. And it's the same thing for your business. When you narrow it down to these are the things I need to look at right now, you can go in, you can look at your data, you know what, you take action. So circling back to your question, how do you make it effective for what you need to know now and park the other ones for later? Because they're probably good questions that you had. They're just not relevant right now. If you look at the impact of what the data is going to have on your business, so how you can qualify that is, can you tie it back to your business? Is there a why? Why am I looking at this?
Mhm.
The second component to that impact is, do you have a target? Do you have an idea of what kind of number you're actually looking for? So it's okay to guess. We all start guessing. If you're looking at something new, you're trying something else, we all come up with a guess. And then as you get feedback, you can
Right.
refine your guess over time to saying, no, this is actually what I'm expecting. So you have a target in mind. And then the third critical component to make this work and narrow things down so that you're looking at what's relevant and what matters is, what action are you going to take? So yes, this number comes back. You see this number. What action are you going to take if it's above what you thought the target was?
Mhm.
And if it's below what you thought the target was? You don't have to worry about if it's on target. You're good. Keep going what you're doing. But defining what you're going to do, if it's above or below, is what allows you to then take action on what you're doing. Not and it becomes one of it becomes like you're in or you're out. Like
Got it.
you're looking at your data, you know what to do, or you can go about continuing on because everything's okay. That's how
Okay.
that's how it shifts from analysis into what I call action analysis.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so let's unpack that for a moment because you gave a really powerful analogy that anyone that's seen a cockpit or even the dashboard on their car, I know if I'm just going someplace local, I'm not really looking at the gas meter. Like I don't need to know how much
Yep.
gas I have in the tank. I'm checking it when I'm on a longer drive. If I'm going to see my mother out in Pennsylvania, yeah, I want to know how much gas I have because there's going to be that gap in between where I know they say there's not going to be another gas station for another 50 miles. Can I make it another 50 miles?
Yep.
Because if I can't, then it's not really going to matter to me. If I know that for the next 200 miles, it's 65 miles per hour to be able to drive, then I'm not necessarily worried about the meter. As long as I'm not going over what it needs to be, I know that I'm good. I don't have to keep checking every single feature. So I think one of the things that really stood out to me was a lot of people are being sold on features. They're being sold on metrics, which goes back to them being vanity metrics because depending on where you're at and what you have going on around you in your business at that point, whatever business stage you may be in, you should probably focus on the things that are relevant in that moment. And it allows you to be a lot more intentional with what you're doing. And that's what I heard in what you were saying. Yes, you want to be able to figure out what metrics to track, but you also want to figure out what happens if you fall below. What happens if you exceed that metric? It allows you to be more intentional and figure out what it is that you want to be able to do from there. So, follow up question to that, because we are talking about people that are siloed and they may be getting information from a lot of different places. As someone that has done many a advertising campaign, I know I've worked for some agencies, and agencies a weekend would say, "We need some numbers. We need to show the brand something. We have to show them that the money is going somewhere. So let's show them the click through rate. Let's show them the cost per acquisition." It's like we haven't gathered enough information for that information to be useful. So I had to figure out metrics that were actually relevant for that window of time based on where they were at. And they were working with different brands and they were working with different they were working with different publishers. So where I was giving them one thing, they were running with someone else. And that other person might have given them something like, oh, we're doing great with the click-through rate. Okay. I know if we both started at the same time and you sent them click-through rates, you're sending them fluff. You're saying, well, I was able to get this many people to click over to your website. And it's like, you haven't learned what it is that they want. So you don't know what to do with that click yet. So what you said really resonated with me on that level because I know I've been in a position where I had to figure out what metrics to give someone. And I had to choose between, am I going to give them something that's just shiny where, you can put it under someone's nose and they can say, oh, that looks great. Or am I going to give you something that's actually useful for where
Yeah.
you're at right now?